Welcome. These sessions will be recorded. I'm pleased you could join us for the Business Education Resilience webinars with 1917. My name is Pauline Marquardt, and I'm the Executive Director of the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce, which is made up of members with common interests and concerns related to the business environment in the Bowie area. It is the primary professional trade organization in the Greater Bowie area dedicated to the protection, enhancement, and success of businesses in the Bowie community. The Bowie COVID-19 Business Recovery Assistance Program delivers online technical assistance to help Bowie businesses accelerate their post-pandemic economic recovery. This program is a collaboration between the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce and the Bowie Business Innovation Center Business Accelerator and funded by the City of Bowie. During the webinar, it is best to be comfortable with your video on. Remember to mute yourself. Please ask questions through the chat unless otherwise directed. Welcome, William Eric Lindsay, Senior Business Counselor of 1917.
Thank you, Pauline. Great to have you. Great to see you again. Great to have Carolina here again. It's been a while, but a short while. We looked at our calendars and we're like, it's been such a long time, but it hasn't been. It's just that we've been doing so much and keeping busy and helping businesses grow, as Carolina's going to talk about tonight. And I just want to say again, Pauline, I hope you had a great birthday last week. It was great to have you on the webinar on your birthday last week. So that was very special that you gave us your time on your birthday. So thank you. I'll never forget that. Really, really, and truly, I'll never forget that. So what I want to do just real quick, just want to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to launch a little bit of a presentation here. So as Pauline mentioned, this is the Business Education and Resiliency webinars. My name is William Eric Lindsay. I'm a business coach and senior business consultant and the owner of 1917. And I work with businesses getting them fit for growth. One of the things that I also do is part of this webinar series is I pull together an amazing team, people that I've known for years, people that I've worked with, people that are well known in their industry. And when Pauline and the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce said, hey, Eric, we're doing this business resiliency webinar series, I said, yes. I have a great colleagues and friends and team members who are experts in their fields. And I would love to bring them together and do this for the Greater Bowie Chamber area and for the businesses in the area. So with that, I just definitely want to say, once again, gratitude. I really want to say thank you for, listening to the presentation that we talked about over a year ago, last summer, the beginning of the summer, when Pauline and I sat down with the board and talked about this. And here we are. I just wanted to really say thank you for trusting myself and my team for being here and listening to their expertise in what they do. We're going to hear Carolina tonight talking about her expertise and there's a secret about her. I don't know if I can share. If you turn on your TV sometimes, you might see her on there, but that's all I'm going to say. She's going to tell you the rest of it. I'm not going to say a word. But I just want to say again, thank you, Pauline, and to the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce board for doing this. So just a little bit about the Education and Resiliency webinar series. It's a 2-section series, and each section had 12 webinars. So we're in section 2, and we're in webinar number 8. So we have 4 webinars left plus 1, which makes 25. So what we did was we took a programmatic approach. We looked at, what the business's needs were, and we wanted to look at it kind of like a business planning process. So we started off with goals, and then we just added goals, and we added business planning, we added financial literacy. And now tonight, we're definitely going to be talking about some operational management of your business in the food industry. Very, very great conversation with Carolina tonight about that, because it's so specific, and the food industry took a huge hit during the pandemic, and now we've actually started opening. So Carolina is definitely going to give us a lot of information on the opening of and what she is seeing and experiencing and working with all these great businesses in the DMV to sort of figure out what's happening with these businesses. And I'm getting excited to just listen to what she's been experiencing over this past 6 to 8 months. We also got a few updates from my federal government colleague from the SBA on the PPP and the EIDL. And he did also talk about the restaurant revitalization grant the last time he was here, just about 2 weeks ago. So there's a lot of information we gleaned off of that. So July 15th is where we're going to have our pitch your business competition. We would love to have everyone who were on the webinars and who attended a lot of the webinars, sign up for the Pitch Your Business competition. I do believe, Pauline, that we're going to have that link on the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce website so people can sign up and sort of just apply for that particular Pitch Your Business, which is happening on July 15th. And then from that, we'll select the first place winner and the second place winner and a third place winner. They'll receive a really cool prize. So my pitch to you today is just to ask you to come back and sign up for the remaining of the webinars. That's my pitch. So I really want you guys to just, really go back and watch the videos, because these are also being recorded. So just go back and look at the videos as well and reach out to the consultants and the business coaches and the folks who are doing these presentations. Reach out to them because their contact information is part of the presentation. So by all means, reach out and get in touch with them and find out ways to ask them questions that you need additional clarity on. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to Carolina, who I've known for quite a number of years. She's well known in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, in the food industry area, does a lot of work with the SBDCs in our area, and she owns her own company. I've known her for years, and she's a television star. I'm gonna leave it right there. And she's done really excellent. And she's not just a business owner in the food industry, she's also an actual chef. So she knows not just how to cook, but she knows how to manage a restaurant, how to manage a food business. So there's two different things. There's a chef, and there's a chef who knows how to manage a restaurant and knows how to manage and operate and successfully, make those wins in the food industry. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carolina Gomez.
Thank you so much, William. I call him Coach. I can't call him William. When I met Coach many years ago now, and that was actually during the transition of, it was after the transition of my time owning a deli. I owned a deli and a charcuterie, so it was a salumi. We did charcuterie and salumis, where I specialize as a chef in prepared and aged meats and sourcing from local farms. And I had, lots of experiences as a business owner that then brought me in that, I guess, path that made me so passionate about helping other business owners. Because when I had my deli, I was looking for resources and calling people, and I went to the Culinary Institute of America. And lucky for me, the Culinary Institute of America it's the best culinary school in the world. It has so many resources. And actually, I encourage you, if you're in the food industry, to look at the resources that the CIA offers, because there are lots of courses, or even, there's tons of stuff that they offer. And it depends on what area you want to explore in the food industry. They have the largest culinary library in the world. They have the best people in the culinary field there, constantly giving the students all of the latest information. And it's not just food, it's breweries and wineries and butchery and distributable goods. So that's what brought me into this path. And I had this amazing professor her name was Irina Chalmers, and she wrote a book called 101 Food Jobs. And she wrote a few editions of that book. And it was really great to get to meet her and talk to her about it, because what I learned the most from her was that in the food industry, you can really write your book. You can do anything with food, because it's just such a broad subject matter that everybody eats, and there's all kinds of products or things that you can do in the food industry. And today's presentation is about food industry and the pandemic and thriving and identifying opportunity. And in the beginning of these series, I guess, of workshops, I did a workshop on identifying opportunities, and I did a whole presentation about looking at your business and looking at all the parts of your business and being able to break it down and being able to see, okay, if this isn't working, how can I take what I have currently and make it work for whatever the demand is in the market right now. And the interesting thing about and that was only like what, like 2 months ago or something, to now, the idea in the beginning of this series was to do the same webinar twice, kind of, to do something that reinforced the last one. Because we thought that we might be in the same situation. We thought that we might be almost in the same situation at least. And actually, there have been incredible changes in such a short amount of time. And these changes have been, I don't want to say unexpected, because I mean, we wanted this, we were thinking positive. We wanted these things to stay, the economy to stay, people to want to go out to eat, and people to still want to go out to restaurants and interact with one another and do these things. And they are, but we didn't really expect it though. Like, we weren't sure what was going to happen back then. And now we're in an interesting place because we're seeing these things, and we're still too much in the beginning to where we're still tracking behaviors and we're trying to see what people are being receptive to. But we have been able to identify some changes that are probably going to stick and continue to evolve. And then some things that we're noticing that maybe this is just something that is a consumer behavior, and that people just enjoy as consumers to go out and socialize. They still like to go out. So I'm going to share my presentation now. All right, let me share my screen. So, food industry and the pandemic, executing a shift to thrive. Food Biz Mentor is my company. At Food Biz Mentor, we focus on giving different types of industry support within the food industry to any food business. So this ranges from menu development to food costing to business planning, and being able to help people in identifying opportunities within their within what they have. Sometimes you need a different set of eyes, and I try to look at it in the chef point of view. Because sometimes business owners need another business person to talk to shoot ideas off of, and bounce back ideas and develop ideas. And that's really the goal of the company, is to support the business owner. So, did the pandemic create pivoting opportunities? Yes, it did. Maybe if we were a few more participants, I would open it up to the room and ask, how did you pivot? Actually, I might still do that. I know it's only a few of us right now, but I'm going to ask you to participate. And I want to ask maybe Charles, would you be willing to tell us, how did you pivot during this pandemic? How do you think you pivoted? Or did you pivot?
I guess, I'm more doing the consulting for engineering, and I focus more, I guess, on the website. And so I think I've put more emphasis on that as far as the website, newsletters and stuff of that nature, than the actual face-to-face, where traditionally it's meetings and, meeting people and hand-to-hand and getting business that way.
Definitely. And actually restaurants did the same, and you had to be able to make it so that, people that were at home could really get the feel for your type of vibe and your business, and try to make sure that you updated the website to make it more informational and more immersive. So that's a great example, and really important. Actually, lots of us had to go and update websites and do all those things. And then how about Ardal? Did you have any sort of pivoting?
Yeah, so I was in a terrible slump at the beginning of the pandemic, because I live in a very small walkable city that was completely deserted. There were no people anywhere. Everything was closed. I would even go up the mountain on the hiking trail and there'd be no one else there. I'd have the entire mountain to myself. So it felt like being lost in space for a little bit. And I went from a situation where I spent a lot of time in the car going between 3 regional offices that I work out of, and I wasn't driving anywhere. I used to go to a lot of networking meetings and rub shoulders with people and have drinks, and all that went away. So it took me quite a while to pivot, but what I ended up doing was realizing I had clients who lost family members and stuff like that, fairly serious problems. I wasn't affected personally by any of those, but I realized it was kind of a signal to get a lot more intentional about all my connections. And so I'm doing that digitally now mostly, but I'm much more choosy about who I spend time with. I just fired a client today who was argumentative in a session. I thought, life's too short for this. I can't help this guy. Showed him the door. So it really did make a big change, but not in any way that I could have predicted.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you very much. And I think that, I live at home alone. So it's like, I have people that come every day that work with me, but it's very interesting to see like that silence that happened in the beginning was crazy. And it was probably a very difficult adjustment to be able to do that if we're so used to society and that sort of interaction. That was probably one of my more, my bigger growing or changing pains. It's not really growing pains as much as just like adapting to change. And that, I think that there's something that you said there that's really important, which is identifying where you wanted to put your energy and to see who you really wanted to focus that energy toward. And that's something that's very interesting. And I'm going to bring that back to the food industry, subject matter, which is what we're talking about today, in being able to connect with your customers. The biggest thing in identifying where your opportunity was, especially, in the pandemic, which is what this whole series is about, was to figure out who is your customer, who are they, and how do you connect with them, and where do you invest that energy, because you only have a limited amount of resources, and how do you best, how do you maximize what you have. So we were talking again with Charles about websites and updating websites and making sure that you have something that's immersive, something with maybe video content or different, very informational marketing materials is very important. And during this pandemic, I already knew branding was very important and I knew marketing was very important. But the pandemic definitely highlighted the importance of that for restaurants, especially, or for different food businesses, because I think we might have been used to people just coming to our restaurant or people just walking by and dropping in, and the reaching out to the consumer and bringing them in. You have to sell them on your brand. You have to sell them on the clear communication of your product. And that was very interesting to kind of experience with not just restaurants, but with many different types of businesses. Some people who depended on markets, for example, who would go to markets to sell sauces or to sell cookies or different baked goods, had to then figure out, okay, how do I get this that I usually do it in a crowd and I sell it to them one-on-one or person to person? How do I get this online and connect with people? And going back to what we were just talking about with our doll, is identifying who are the people that you want to invest that energy into that will make it more effective. So in your personal lives, I guess, as a business owner, you have a nest, you have a network of people that are the close people that know you and that know your reputation and that believe in you and your product. And in this case, during the pandemic, it was important for restaurants and all kinds of businesses to identify their nests, identify who are the people who know that, who understand your character and who know that your product is great, and how do you communicate to them in a way that will be effective, where they'll communicate with others to that you're there, basically. And how do you maximize your nest? And how do you reach out to people and tell them to come to you? So I believe that the pandemic definitely created pivoting opportunities. That's what this slide's all about. It created it in many different ways. We were talking kind of about ghost kitchens in the last presentation, which has been a very big, important thing in the food industry lately. And right now, what we're seeing with pivoting opportunities in the restaurant industry, especially here in DC, is we have a lot of restaurants who had to close down, or we have a lot of restaurants who may have just paused business for a little bit, but then we had different relief programs, right, that they needed to tap into, and they weren't allowed to close down if they tapped into them. So then the question became, how do we fill that gap of business? How do we revamp our business without closing it down and use what we have? And that created a big opening for micro businesses and for places who had been looking for commercial kitchens, or who had been looking for something that was a little bit more affordable than what the price used to be able to do those direct negotiations with other business owners, to become more creative as to how to create a new concept by working together or by filling different gaps. One of my favorite stories is of Underground Pizza Company that started in Baltimore, because they started in a garage during the pandemic. So in the beginning of the pandemic, they were making pizza out of a garage. They were making Detroit style pizza. And the reason they were doing that is just because they liked Detroit style pizza. They didn't have much to do. And they were like, well, we always wanted to start a pizza company, so now's the time. So then they did, out of a garage. And then that became super popular. And then they were able to find different ghost kitchens in Baltimore. And then they came over to Washington, D.C. Then they went over to Montgomery County. And they are an incredibly popular pizza company now, very trending pizza company. But really, when you look at their success, or what I would say, what opportunity did they find? They found the opportunity in social media marketing. They found the opportunity in trying to make something that wasn't there, which was a Detroit style pizza, but they marketed it in a way that created a crazy buzz just because of the way they took their pictures, the way that the pizza looked. So whenever you're looking at food businesses, it doesn't matter what type of food business it is, the marketing is the most important part. So identifying your opportunities, seeing how you can pivot is important. And then, well, I kind of skipped to this, but I'm going to go back here, but I'm going to come back to the marketing later. But the moving parts. So when you're identifying, how do you pivot? And I'm sure the business owners already know this, but this is just a reminder to look at your business in a bird's eye view. Sometimes business owners, we get used to working in our business. We forget sometimes to work on our business. So you have to be very intentional so that you can be proactive about making those changes rather than reactive to all of those negative things that'll come later if you don't make the change soon enough. So something that did happen during the pandemic, unfortunately, is that sometimes you can get maybe overcome by, I don't know if it's fear or uncertainty of really taking a leap to make a change that might be good for your customers, or something that might seem like it's trending more, but sometimes people want to stay with what they've been doing, right? They don't want to change their business. They don't want to change their menu because it's worked for so long that you don't want to change it. But you have to understand that when your business is going down and you're not getting sales, you can either market more aggressively to see if that's going to work and aggressively market to bring in more business, or intentionally kind of, because intentionally is more important than aggressively, but the aggressive, being consistent with marketing is very important. But whenever it comes to, if that's not working, because sometimes it doesn't work because maybe trends changed or something, look at your moving parts. So is it the quality of your food? Did your food quality change? Did it go down, or did it stay consistent, or did it go up? Are you being innovative? Are you bringing new things to your clientele? Or maybe they want the same thing, but maybe, there has to be something. If you're not getting the sales that you want, there's something that you can change. There's a part. So looking at your business in the bird's eye view and saying, okay, what is that part that's not working out? I like to ask customers, I like to maybe do suggestion boxes at the door and encourage them maybe to put their business card in. So you could do like a raffle. If you put in a suggestion, put your business card in, and you can win a lunch or something to encourage people to give feedback. Doing mailing lists is very important. I know that sometimes people don't love filling out surveys, and people are hesitant about sending out surveys to their customers, but some customers really appreciate getting asked those questions. So you could do surveys to find out, what would you like to see from us? And looking at what are the different places or parts of your business and how can you make them more efficient? Because as we move through this pandemic, one thing that has been going at lightning speed is the development of technology in the food industry. That is huge for the profitability of your business. And right now, we're facing this interesting shift in labor cost in the food industry, in every type of food business. The labor cost is going up. Cost of ingredients are going up. So, it's not to panic or not to be afraid, but if you know your moving parts, you know your costs. So if you know your costs, then you do a proper food cost, you find out the proper cost for your product, you find out exactly how much you need to sell it for to make the profit that you need, and you try to identify where you can be more efficient and effective. And a lot of the time that happens to be in the technology. And some food business owners, I will say, are pretty hesitant in making that investment because sometimes those initial investments can be, it's a higher initial investment, but it saves you a lot of money in the long run. So making sure that you're doing your business planning properly is incredibly important because there are, I know that at Food Biz Mentor, we help with cloud-based integration, and we'll help you with a plan to be able to come up with the costs of how much it might cost you to get to where you need to go with your technology package. Like what type of technology do you need? How do you make it more efficient? And how much might that cost? But you can do that with many different companies, that offer certain technologies. Like, for example, if you're looking for POS system, look up all the different types of point of sale systems that there are, because there are a lot of them, and try to figure out what fits best for your company. And maybe they might have something that works for you. But my main point in talking about all of this is to say that it's become a very highly competitive part of the food industry, the technology side of it. There are lots of people developing new softwares constantly to see if they can get the food business, the business from the business, the food business. So because of that, now we have more options. I remember when I had, maybe like only 3 years ago, there were only like 3 companies that were the well-known ones for inventory. Now there are all kinds of different companies that offer resources to be able to control inventory. And the interesting thing is, it depends on what business you have, because I can't recommend one kind, because there are different ones for different types of businesses. For example, if you are selling sauces, like barbecue sauce, and you want to sell them at a grocery store, you might need someone to connect you from the sales team. So a technology that connects the sales team to the distributor or to your distribution, however you're doing your distribution, to the manufacturer. And how does that work? So a little secret is like only like maybe a few years ago, everyone was doing that almost via email. Like the salesperson would email their order into distribution, and then there was another person that was trying to figure out with how much they were going to order through the manufacturer, and they would have to email the manufacturer, and then the manufacturer would email the distributor to let them know that the thing was whatever they had to pick up was ready to go. Then the salesperson, because there might have been a hiccup, has to go to the distributor, and they have to pick up the thing to take it to the place that it needs to go because there was a gap because someone didn't send an email somewhere, right? And that happens a lot in distribution companies. But now with all these different technologies, you can create your own type of system. And I know that's a very vague thing that I just spoke about, but there are different programs that can be developed for you. And that's the beauty of technology these days, is that because the food business is so it's just multicolored. There's so many different types of food businesses. You have to know that when you identify your opportunity, there might be a way. And the way to do it is to find out who's the technology near you, who are those tech people that you can reach out to be able to find out what's the system that works best for you. That's one part, is the technology part. That's a big moving part that can save you money. The other big moving part that can save you money, or really just not save you money as much as you need to know your food cost. And I know that I coach here hears me say this over and over and over again. You need to know your food cost. Food cost is important. And it seems like something that's like very obvious, that you need to know your cost of goods sold. And I don't know why this is such a common problem in the food industry, but sometimes it's very difficult to get food business owners to come up with their food cost before they put it into market, before they start selling it. So I will say that, that's one of the most common problems I find, is when someone already has a food business and then they say, oh, I never got my food costs. I never found out how much it cost me. I just gave it a price because I knew that this is how much my order was. So I was just going to cover all my costs this way. And the thing is that your food cost is one thing, but then you have to make sure that you're incorporating all of your other business costs. These are a lot of operational costs that you also have to include. So whenever you're identifying your moving parts, you have to make sure that you're looking at the different pieces and you're looking at them at the cost that they are, is basically what I'm saying. I want you to find out, okay, my pulled pork sandwich sells very well. So because I have a deli and the pulled pork sandwich is selling really well, because of the pandemic, I think I'm going to do family style meals and offer the pulled pork in large batches to all of these families so that they can do subscription meals. So in that sounds like a really good idea, because people like that, and then maybe they can pick up the family style meals for a pulled pork. But if I looked at my business, if I know that my pulled pork sandwich is not the most profitable thing on my menu, or not one of the more profitable things, or even labor-wise, maybe pulled pork is scalable to a certain extent, but my smoker only fits a few pork shoulders. So if I start marketing this aggressively, I'm going to sell out of all that pulled pork really quick. And that's what I put all my marketing into. So how am I going to get more pulled pork, or how do I manage my production cycle? So it sounds simple to come up with a special, but then there are a lot of other parts that you have to think about. So that was very interesting during the pandemic, was to try to figure out, okay, what is scalable in your business? What is something that will hold well so that it goes to the customer at a very high quality, just like the way you packaged it in your restaurant? Because there's also things from your menu that won't travel well, or they won't reheat well, or things like that. So when you're looking at your moving parts, basically the point is you're looking at all of your resources and you're identifying different opportunities and doing a cost benefit analysis on all the opportunities to be able to see what's the one that might be more advantageous for you. But for many restaurants, the best thing was to sell directly to families and do family style meals. For many catering companies, it ended up being to do boxed lunches. So lots of catering companies shifted to, instead of doing the regular full service catering with hors d'oeuvres and things like that, they ended up having to box everything and do the box catering. So they would do the box catering and deliver, right? But that has a cost too. You know, you have to include your cost of containers and all of those other things that you're adding on to it. So that, you know, that's a way those people shifted. And then distributable goods, you know, I really only saw some people who had distributable goods that didn't have a catalog. So developing some sort of catalog or some sort of sales material that maybe you used to not have, that now you need, because somebody's going to have to order it, and they need like a tangible visual sales tool that you might not have had before because you used to do it face to face. So there are, like I said, a lot of moving parts, and I know I'm being super general because it's the food industry and there's all kinds of food businesses. And if you have some trouble figuring out, okay, what is my opportunity? You know, I would say, you know your business. You know your business more than anybody else will know your business. You know what you have and what you don't have. You're the only one that knows that. So if you need help and guidance, you can reach out to me on foodbizmentor.com, and then I can help with, if you know what you have, then we can try to figure out what are the opportunities that you might have there. But whenever you do find that opportunity, that brings me to the marketing part of it. And marketing is an essential part of surviving and thriving in business in general. It's not just during the pandemic, but during the pandemic, it became a very, very essential part. Something that I've really loved during the pandemic actually is being able to meet more people on Zoom, which has been very interesting to be able to, let's say, if you're a wholesale company and you need to reach out to the purchasing department for a purchaser, let's say at a hotel or a country club, and then you're selling your product to them, you can make their time more efficient as well. You know, coordinate a way to get your product over to them and schedule Zoom meetings and do things like that to utilize your technology. But in the marketing aspect of it, videos have become incredibly important. Videos have become probably one of the most important marketing tools that there are for the food industry right now. Especially when it comes to chefs, I think highlighting your own career and highlighting your own talents brings people to the restaurant because it tells a story. But who do you market to? You know, where do you spend that energy? And you should be spending that energy first with your actual current customers that are spending money with you. The people who already basically have bought into your business, they support you, they see you, you know, market to them and send them videos and say, oh, can you please, like, subscribe and share, and have them share it with their networks so that you can increase that following, right? Because people will follow someone, or they see more credibility in what someone is sharing when it comes from someone that they know. There's so much stuff on the internet right now. There's so much in the web that make identifying your nests and saying, okay, who knows me? Who knows my business? And how do I clearly communicate to them what I'm doing? Then they know. Then you try to get them, hey, I'm trying to grow my business. I'm trying to, spread the word. So then hopefully they'll be receptive to that and they'll do it too. I like to even pick up the phone and call customers for certain things, not for everything. In a restaurant, it's kind of, sometimes it depends on what type of food business you have. But for example, for a catering company, that's a pretty normal thing where you could find out, if you have a regular customer that you always do their baby showers, or you always do their birthdays or their graduations, calling them and say, hey, the pandemic seems to be, people seems to be vaccinated. Events are going on right now that had been rescheduled. Do you need my services, or do you know anybody who might need a caterer? It's simple. And then maybe they know someone, and then they will spread the word, or try to figure out or identify where you can spread the word. Another places that I like to do is look into the community that have like values like you. So for example, if you're part of a club, I know that I have like different hobbies, right? So I know where I'm gonna go, and where people know me, that's where I'll probably go first to market my services. I go to church, so I usually, go to church and tell everybody about what I'm doing, and then they support me, and then their, family members support me, and then that's how you kind of grow in the catering side, but also in the restaurant side, looking at your customers and finding out if they might have, family members that might like your restaurant, and what might they like to see in your restaurant. And same thing with distributable goods like snacks, potato chips, sauces, all of these things. The grassroots marketing is, for me, in my opinion, some of the most effective marketing. But what happens when you exhaust that? Because that's exhaustible. You only know so many people. You don't know that many people. That's when you really take advantage of all of these other things, right? So the internet is about building a web, and it's about making sure that your presence is in many different places. And that's what helps your business get optimized on the internet. You should be present in many different platforms. That way, when people search for you, you kind of appear first. And website optimization is very important. Now, I'm a chef, right? I'm not a tech person. I can't say that I really fully understand how that's put together, but I know it's really important, right? So if you know that your business needs something and you know it's very important, you want to find the networks and find the resources that can help you there. I know Charles was just talking about websites and optimization and how that was very important for his business. So if anyone, in the community, because I know that we're talking in the Bowie Chamber of Commerce, so I'm sure that we're in Maryland and you're in the Maryland community, find out who's the people who might be able to help you with that technology in your community, so that maybe they will also learn about your business and communicate your food business and what your service is to whoever they know as well. So you can kind of help each other. But the internet is obviously very important, and collecting that data. So building the next opportunity is basically about collecting data. When you have your food business, you probably have a POS system. And that point of sale system, you collect emails, phone numbers. Really, you can collect emails and phone numbers. I like to keep my CRM updated. I like to take people's birthdays. I like to find out, if I could include what they ordered last time. I do. if I know whatever, like silly, not silly thing, but something that might make them feel special. Because that's the other thing, you have so many customers, and customers aren't just another number. You know, they are people who want to frequent your business for your story, or for you probably, or but everyone likes to feel special, and everybody wants to feel like they're unique, and they are unique. But as a business owner, how do you possibly track hundreds of customers and make them all feel special? Because that's really hard to do, especially as your business grows. So collecting certain things, like when you have your CRM, so your customer relationship management, some people, I like to use Salesforce. Then there's also Zoho, and there are a few different CRM systems that you can incorporate, or even point of sale systems have their own CRM these days. Like I know Square has it, and Toast has it, and I think Clover might have it. But whenever you take credit card information or whatever, and you take, your customer's information, you can ask them, hey, can I put in a little note, when's your birthday, so that we can send you a special gift on your birthday, or a fun discount or whatever. And make sure that they follow you on social media. Make sure that they're following you on Instagram. Instagram is more for food businesses, I think. In my opinion, I think that taking pictures of food, that's where people become, I guess they trend more with food businesses. But these days we have TikTok that's becoming incredibly popular, or it's become popular. I'm not very good at TikTok, admittedly. Like, I actually hired someone to help me with my TikTok because I'm notoriously personally like not good at making the TikToks. But it's a very effective tool because you can do different recipe demos. You can do, you can share fun stories about what you're doing with your business. And that creates a following because it creates a connection. It makes people feel like they personally know you. The actual system of it is, I tried to make videos and I wasn't very good at it. So that's why I had to get someone a little younger than me to teach me how to do it. But Instagram is my generation. Like, Instagram's a millennial thing. We know our Instagram. So I use Instagram a lot for that reason. LinkedIn is a way to connect, probably, I would say, more business to business, or business to potential hires, or people who are professionals in whatever you're doing. That's always very nice. During the pandemic, a lot of people lost jobs. A very great management staff lost their jobs. And now that we're facing this sort of, I don't want to call it a hiring crisis, but it's very difficult to find qualified people right now easily, like more accessible, because we're still in a pandemic and people are still indoors. Making sure that you're updating your LinkedIn and making sure that you're reaching out to, if you're looking to hire a certain position, LinkedIn is incredibly important for your business. And then also, if you want to get those contracts that are corporate, corporate contracts are very important in the food industry. And in the pandemic, we kind of get a clean slate. There have been all these, corporations that have been gone, and then now they have to come back to regular kind of business operations, and they might have changed their purchasing, their purchaser, or they might have changed teams a little bit, or they might just want something new. And this is the time to be connecting with all of those people for those contract catering. Also, as people come back from the hotels or for country clubs, they want to revamp their menus. So if you work for a wholesaler and you're trying to connect with a chef, this is the time to do it, because it's still not incredibly busy, and so you can still access them. So I even encourage, even if you want to use Zoom to connect with the chefs. I know that as a chef, I do not like getting surprised by sales reps during work. Like, I was the meanest chef in that sense, that if a sales rep came and they didn't call me before they came that they were going to come, I would ask them either to come back, or, well, really, I just always asked them to come back, because I hadn't planned on that during my timeline for my day. Now, as a salesperson, I don't recommend that, because as a salesperson, you should go, but try to find and have that sort of personal understanding and empathy with the chefs, understanding their busy schedules, and then change your strategy so that you're more effective in the sale. So the changing of the strategy that I would say would be email the chef, say, hey chef, I have this great product I would like you to add to your menu. We're Avendra approved, we're Aramark approved, or whatever, credentials that you can show, and say, I would love to schedule a tasting. Can we just have a quick Zoom meeting so we can and then schedule it? Can we just have a quick Zoom meeting on Tuesday at 3:00 so I can talk to you more about our products and what we can offer, and make sure that they get a taste of whatever you're offering. But that might be a much more effective way as a wholesale rep to be able to make those connections with chefs. And the wholesale rep, I'm talking about if you work for a wholesale company, or a lot of I kind of am imagining every client that I've worked with. So I say a lot of our clients, but a lot of you, I feel like, might have some sort of distributable good. You either make a barbecue sauce or a chips or a bar or a cookies or hors d'oeuvres, because that's what in this area a lot of these micro businesses do. So I know that a lot of small businesses here have that type of food. And the way you connect with the hotels and the country clubs and those things to be able to get those secured contracts is by talking to the chef or the purchaser. And that's how you can do it. And making sure that when you go, you have your social media like good. Like you can say, oh, look at my Instagram. You can see all my things here. You can follow us here. And if it's trendy and if you have a following, they're more likely to want to purchase from you, because they want to reflect that too with their business. They want to reflect your story as well. And then when it comes to restaurants doing this is something that restaurants have been doing for a while, but the small restaurants don't do as often. So I like mom and pops, but mom and pops are rarely owned by mom and pop. They're just like owned by cousin and uncle and like individual people. But the mom and pop shops, they need to be able to integrate CRMs. And if you need help learning how to do it, if you think it sounds complicated, I promise you it's not. It's actually not hard at all. And if you need help, again, reach out to us at foodbizmentor.com. But you should be able to collect that data through your POS system. Once you have that data through your POS system, you should be scheduling when you're going to email all your clients in the week. Whoever is in charge of that job description should be doing that. And you should be scheduling posts on all of your social media channels, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. And you should be calling your regular clients to show them some sort of appreciation, something. You can say, if it's their birthday, offer, mail them a discount card or something to just kind of keep that going. And I see that that coach there, we talked about discounts the other day in another workshop. And that's a very interesting thing in food businesses too, is, okay, so do I just offer a discount? Is that, what I do? And you have to be very intentional as to what your promotion is going to be. Obviously, I will say that. Don't just offer discounts left and right. You want to make sure that, okay, so if this is my more profitable item in my menu mix, then maybe I can offer something off of that. For example, drinks are more profitable, so maybe you could offer a margarita with a meal, or something that's a little bit more intentional, as opposed to a full-blown just discount, because that can be a little dangerous actually. So I will say that, but your business and your financials, so what you can support. And my main point in that is just to say, show that appreciation to your customer. And the way you do that is by collecting their emails and phone numbers and knowing their special events and following that stuff. So CRMs are very important to be able to build your next opportunity. And the last slide is about the importance of a business plan. And this is something that, okay, so during the pandemic, many businesses started from scratch and opened, or they had to revamp actually, and they had to identify opportunity and change. And I'm not saying that you have to write a full-blown business plan, which I think you should, but maybe you might not have the time to, right? Because sometimes it's a time thing. But you should always sit down and write a business canvas or some sort of strategy. You have to write it down. You have to analyze what you're going to do, because food is something that seems like it's very accessible. So sometimes it might seem easy, but the thing is that your costs with whatever you're going to do or decide to do can vary drastically depending on what type of ingredients you want to use, or what your strategy is going to be in the production of it, or where, you know, the labor involved in whatever you're going to do. So you really should be, any food business that you're going to do, outlining what your costs are going to be. And that's incredibly important, because let's say I want to do, I mean, let's say I want to do potato chips, for example. If I want to start a potato chip company, I could do it in different ways. I can personally fry the potato chips. You know, I can slice the potato chips, I can fry them, I can season them, I can bag them myself, and I'm gonna, you know, sell that item personally. But that's a lot of labor involved in each step, right? So that's fine if I want to do a high quality snack that it is something that is delicious and it's unique and it's high quality, but then I'm going to charge for it. So I'm not going to charge $3 or $4 or whatever a bag of potato chip costs at the grocery store. I'm probably going to have to charge more like $16 for a bag of potato chips. And who's going to pay $16 for a bag of potato chips? But it's who do you sell it to, and how do you market those potato chips? So there are many different things like that in the food industry. There are tons of different examples like that. And when you're looking at your business and what you want to do, you have to identify, okay, this is my food cost. This is what my labor cost is going to be. This is what my operational costs are going to be. How do I make it more efficient? So as a chef, anytime I, was getting trained, chefs always said, we have that thing that we say in the kitchen. It's always better, faster. If you're working and you do it well, so then the chef comes by and says, okay, now do it better. Now do it faster. Now do it better. Now do it faster. And the reason that chefs always say that to cooks is because we have to be efficient. If cooks aren't producing better and faster, then the restaurant can't sell more. So the restaurant is trying to sell more and keeping their labor cost level. And that's why they typically do that, because they have to. But now, let's make sure that when you build this new service, you're making it healthy, and you're making sure that, okay, if I'm going to do this food business, how do I effectively train my staff, and what type of team do I need to be able to reach X amount of sales? And how do I make that logical? And how do I make it effective? And how do I market it in a way that's going to reach more people? And when I do that, how am I going to scale? Is this something that I can scale? Do I have the facilities to do that? Or do I need to identify a plan to be able to figure out how I would scale? Or maybe you don't want to. But if the pandemic has taught me one thing, it's that there are lots of, business opportunities out there, but the business plan portion of it is incredibly important. And it's something that I encourage everyone to do. And I'm sure that if you're in this business seminar, you know the importance of a business plan. However, it is the most important part, and I like to say it because there are also many experienced food business owners that I know just don't do one because they just think that, oh, we'll just do this, this, and this. And the problem sometimes ends up being that you put in a huge initial investment and then your plan didn't come to fruition because it hit a stop along the way. And it hit a stop that you could have prevented if you had gotten the costs in the beginning. So that's very important. And then that just is directly related to managing your finances. So with the pandemic, and I know that in other workshops, they've spoken about these types of things, such as making sure that you tap into the different funds that are available because of the pandemic, like PPP and RRF and EIDL. And identifying those opportunities are very important as well. I know that sometimes business owners have gotten discouraged and say, oh, I'm not going to qualify for that, so I'm not going to apply, or I'm not going to do this, so I'm not going to apply. And that's a personal decision. And I would never tell you to do something that you don't want to do for your own business. But I will say that identifying your opportunities has to do with identifying what local resources you have available. And at Maryland, you know, we have the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce, you have the Maryland SBDC. I know I work with the DC SBDC. We have Food Biz Mentor. You have a lot of connectors, 1917. So you have a lot of connectors that can help you with the resources that you might need, that you might not have been able to identify yet, only because it's important to know that nobody knows everything. And that's really important too. You can't know everything. You don't have all the answers because no one does. But what you do as a business owner is you're able to identify where you're going to get those answers or where you can get that better guidance or advice. And I'm pretty confident that if you're watching this webinar right now, then you know that because you're here and you're trying to figure out, you know, what's best for you and trying to figure out where you have your resources. So we have those. Let us know if you need anything. And this is my contact information. That was kind of a segue to just say this, that this is where you can find me. My Instagram is chef_kickass. It's more of it's a combo of a personal and business Instagram because I like sharing my personal life with all my clients. I think it's important for me. I like to share my story. I like to make that connection. So I post about food, but I also post about business events and I post about, you know, whatever I'm doing at the time as Chef Kickass. And I am named Chef Kickass because of Coach over here who kind of dubbed me that one day when we were talking. So that's why that's my Instagram handle. But my company is Food Biz Mentor, and you can always reach me at Carolina@foodbizmentor.com. You can read my blog on foodbizmentor.com and learn more about the story of why that business came to be. And thank you. And that's that. So we finished at 6:05. But I don't know if there are any questions. I know that today there's like a smaller group. So what do you think?
No, I thought it went really well. But first, does anyone have any questions or comments or anything you want to share real quick before we take off?
I just want to say, I guess, thank you. Me not being in the food industry, I still was able to learn a lot that I can take forward with me. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad. Thank you.
Thanks. The two things that Carolina, you talked about, which is really cool, and I thank you for highlighting that, was a lot of people in the food industry, the cost of goods, they really don't know their numbers. And I think that's almost I would dare say it's almost a normal thing in the sense that like that type of person, that individual who gets in this creative field, they don't really enjoy the numbers part so much because it's so restrictive. It's not as creative, put it that way. But I think the point that you also made was try to get the help. You're not, it's part of your moving part of the business where, yeah, you do the creative, your management of the food, how to run the operations. But what you don't know is also good because you can actually hire someone to help you in calculating your cost of food, for example, your food cost, your price per ounce, your ingredients, things like that. And Carolina, I've worked with you in helping restaurants in focusing on just that one dimension of their business, and that made a huge difference for their profit margin. Just doing that exercise for 3 to 4 hours, it just turned their business around, and that was so important. Just doing that one thing, especially in the food industry, looking at the ingredient schedule, looking at their, what actually goes into each individual unit that they sell and what that costs on a raw average, it makes a huge difference. So knowing your numbers is so important. And then the business planning part. Yeah, definitely just have your concepts written down somewhere and always revisit that business plan. I think that's great, especially with the pandemic and the way things have shifted and pivoted. Your business plan is your foundation in getting that done. So those were really two huge highlights that you mentioned. So I really wanted to reiterate those two. And of course, the marketing. Marketing is so important. In the beginning of the pandemic, everyone they were scrambling to figure out, well, how do I get to my client? How do I reach them now that they are unreachable because of the government shutdown? So how do I do that? Like Charles, you were saying your social media website. Carolina, you talked about the TikTok, you talk about Instagram and how to get people out there and the different strategies for doing that. So, I categorize that as communication. How do you continually communicate with the people who eat your food? How do you keep doing that? And that's so important. It's so, so important. So no, Carolina, thank you for doing this. Your expertise is always appreciated. Looking forward to working with you on some upcoming projects as well. And just want to say thanks.
No, thank you. It's always great working with you. And thank you for the opportunity and for the invitation to come speak today, because I always appreciate that. So that's a big goal of mine, to spread the word.
There you go.
So thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to also those projects.
Yeah, definitely. We got a few things in the pipeline working. So before we leave, and actually before I turn over to Pauline, so next week is June 10th. We're talking about ways of exiting your business. And this guy looks familiar. I don't know, I've met him before. And he's myself. I'll be doing a presentation next week on exiting your business. So as of today, we have, we're doing, let's see, next week, and then 3 more after this. So we are number 8. Yeah, we have 4 webinars left until the pitch competition. So, Pauline, I want to thank you again. You worked so hard in putting this webinar series together for the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce. And yeah, I'm going to miss this once it's over, because, me and my team, we've always gotten together and really talked about the strategy and how to put this together and all that. So it's going to be a strange feeling, come post pitch competition, like, hey, it's Thursday night. Now what do I do? We'll all have to go to Carolina's best place to eat, and she'll give us some tips on where to go eat. So we got to get her back one day.
I have tons of tips. I have all the tips.
Yeah, so. she knows like the best places to eat in DC, and the best places aren't really those places that are like on the main street. They're like in the corners and the little avenues and yeah, she's got it. So thanks again. So Pauline, I'm gonna turn it over to you. And before everyone leaves, you have a quick survey or questionnaire we'd like for you to fill out. So thanks, Pauline.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you for joining us today. If you could take a moment and answer the exit poll questions. Again, we have another informative webinar by 1917 LLC. Thank you, Carolina. And William, now more than ever, we need a business plan. So thank you all for joining us today.